Hi and welcome back to another video of JPlay. I am Marcus and today I'm starting my playthrough of Unsettled. If you happen to watch my very recent unboxing video, you might know that this is not the box. This is just one of the planetary boxes. And in fact, that's the planet we are going to visit in my playthrough, and that's Wenora. Looks really nice actually. And yeah, the goal of the game is to basically go through a series of tasks and then make it back to our ship. And as I've never played this game before, and I asked you guys if you would be okay with me doing a learning video, and apparently most of you are. So don't expect me to win, survive, or even only partially survive. I'm really all for the ride, really want to see what this game has in stock for me. And yeah, let's see how things go, shall we? Icky, sticky, beautiful travelogue 1001 on Wenora. When we left Earth in search of bizarre, wondrous new worlds, this is exactly what we imagined. The circumstances are a bit more catastrophically on the verge of death than anticipated, but awe in the face of uncertainty is the essence of exploration. Strange gargantuan fungal formations tower above us, swarming with alien creatures and dripping with bright liquids. Surfaces are covered in mysterious powdery substance. The air is thick, almost gelatinous, and there is an uncomfortable abundance of toxic-looking tendrils and suction cups. It couldn't be more alien. It took almost an hour of low-orbit scanning just to find a place to land, so dense is the fungal vegetation. With a world this full, it's impossible to imagine we won't find the things we need to survive. Whether those things kill us is another question entirely. Let's go, touch stuff. And yeah, this is where we are. You are looking at Wenora and a lot of unexplored nodes waiting for us. In this game, depending on which planet you're visiting, the setup is slightly different. For Wenora, you have this 3x4 grid. And you have the swampy quagmire here to the left, which I imagine might be our target for this goal. Again, I have not really looked into our survival tasks yet, so I will learn and explore this world with you together. Here is our scarab. The rules suggest you, when you first start the game, don't use the, let's call it, side with the ability, because it seems to make the game more easy. Because yeah, then there are 3 different scarabs which provide you different kind of capabilities. So I followed this advice and said, yeah, let's go with the neutral side of our scarab here. And again, ultimately, we are looking at this task here, and I will do another read in a minute. Wenora comes with 3 survival tasks. Again, the game suggests you for your very first time start with task A. That's what I'm doing. But again, before we get started, let's have a quick look at our 2 scientists here. And much like the Enterprise, we are really scientists, explorers, not really warriors in this game. So we have the blue astronaut or the blue scientist and the red scientist here. And we have Luna, our beloved robot here. And as for our blue astronaut scientist here, we have the nameless dude here. And again, the game comes with quite a lot of these interchangeable tokens here, and they're even 2-sided. So this one has a nice looking sunglass. Yeah, I was using the one with the sunglass. We start with our entrance at the highest level, and we have an insight dice here, and that's, I believe, chemistry. Yep, that's basically what this astronaut or this scientist is after, and this leads to comprehension later on, but I will try to cover this as I go. Again, I will not give you a rules primer up front. I will, again, learn and explore the game with you. I have also randomly given 2 of these feats to our characters, and they can then choose one of those. And for the blue player, I decided to have him be the intellectual. So we are covering the standard ability for this one here, the rest one up with this feature token here. So it's usually a somewhat more powerful ability than the one that's below. So the standard rest action here, for example, allows you just to give back 1 focus to that die. So basically recovering. But in this case, if you're using I think it's awareness die, you're also getting 1 insight by doing that. So he's kind of a thinker. And on the other side of the room, we have, I don't know, let's call her Lucy. I think she also is double side. Yeah, they all come with sunglasses. At least the ones I checked, they come with sunglasses. In this case, I prefer this side here. Don't ask me why. She is a skeptic. So whenever she's theorizing, her action is somewhat different. So she can basically, and that's pretty cool, without losing any focus here, though there is no downward arrow on this action, get a data, an energy, or a material, which is pretty great actually. And yeah, again, we are covering the normal theorize action. Also, the normal theorize action is a good one, but in this case, yeah, I think she does things a little bit differently. She's more the practical gal, it seems, and she wants to go for actual data, energy, or material. So something that she can actually work with. And now, before we get started, we have to go through, let's call it chapter 1 of our task, which is kind of the introduction here. The early onset hangriness. The trauma of the wormhole event might be getting to us. The loss of most of the crew, critical damage to critical systems, and the real reality that we are unlikely to ever see any of our loved ones again. It's the little things that add up. So we are shaken. Our energy is low and no one has really been eating, which in some ways has worked to our advantage as our food stores are lacking. We are not saying we recommend catastrophic banishment beyond the edge of existence as a diet plan, but we are not recommending it either. It's working for us so far, but soon the food thing is gonna become a problem. Fortuitously, the long-range scanners uncovered this fungal jungle planet absolutely seething with bizarre organisms. And as scientists, if there's one thing we know about organisms, it's that they're often tasty. Much terribleness has transpired, but none of that can be undone. We still, through luck, fate, or providence, have this ship and each other, and that's going to have to be enough. It will be enough. And if it's not, we have Luna, so we are set. Let's go get some grub. Next, we would basically flip this to the other side. This gives us our setup, and that's something obviously I already done. So I kind of cheated a little bit, so at least I flipped this to the other side. So we are doing this right now here. We put the Swampy Quagmire in here. And then we also have to be sure to review the Wenora travel log. Don't forget about spore clouds, exactly, because that's something that's covered in the travel log here, the toxic spore clouds. So whenever we are leaving a node, we have to put a black spore cloud next to the node, and this goes off whenever or affects a player who is starting their turn in a node with a spore cloud here. And this is already the first confusion, is does the Scarab, our ship, count as a node or not? And I think it does not. Maybe it's in here? No, I don't think so. I don't think that the Scarab in this case counts as a node. So we can leave the Scarab without affecting the other players. At least that's how I played. So learn with me. If I played incorrectly, I will most certainly let you know a little bit later through a comment or in my next video on this. And then we can check out our very first task of that task A. It's a subtask to whatever. First impressions, sticky. Follow-up impressions about the same. We need to deploy our mobile science structures if there's to be any hope of us doing anything at all efficiently down here. Construct the laboratory, research hut, and workshop on open build site. So that's something we are finding on our, I don't know, Luna board here or planet node board. I really don't know how those are referred to, but here we will find the research hut, the laboratory, and the workshop. Typically, they're rather easy to build, and of course I have them here on the wrong side. Typical me, apologies for that. So we have to put them onto the build side so that we know how to build them correctly. Not terribly difficult, so they're either required to spend one time or the appropriate or having the appropriate comprehension. And again, that's either engineering, it's chemistry, or robotics here, the blue one. Right now we don't have any of this comprehension. That's something that we have to get through proper insight while making our way through the planet here. As far as I understood, the normal difficulty level for a two-player game says you are starting with all of these focus dice on basically 2 focus points. This is how exhausted you will get. So right now the 2 is pretty solid, the 3 is the maximum on these, let's call it dice. The rules refer to them as cubes because again we are not rolling those cubes here. So we are all starting at 2. Again, there are some rules and optional things how you can make the game more difficult, more easy, really according to your liking. But again, from what I understand, in a 2-player game, standard one, we will start with 2 of these each. Then we have awareness, wonder, and energy, that is, as far as I know. Doesn't really matter too much in the end. The game really comes with a lot of icons, and I mean a lot of those, but I believe after reading the rules now twice or 2.5 times, I tend to believe that everything is relatively logical. There are 1 or 2 flaws in the rules, and I think this has been caught on BGG already. But apart from that, I think everything should be relatively clear. And I guess with that being said, Lucy here will go first. And please don't ask me why I named her Lucy. It's like it is. Typically, an explorer takes their whole turn before handing it over to another player. In between, everyone can take free action, and really in between, which means especially those so-called free actions is something that you can do at any time. You can really interrupt basically everything, something I really like, but of course makes this game very, very puzzly. But in respect to our actions, we can basically move. We can move Luna, we can scan Luna's node when she is on an actual node, and we will have to set our 3 focus cubes, and 1 of those focus cubes needs to go on the rest action. With the other 2, you basically free what you need to, but you have to place them all. Then there is a whole list of free actions here. I have already forgotten what can be done, and I have to refer to this cheat sheet here more than once. And yeah, then basically we will get some free actions also from our research structures later on once we have built those here accordingly. And as there is a cool sample turn in the rules, I think now starting with Luna, and again, one of our actions is to move Luna 1 adjacent node. It seems there are ways how you can make Luna move a little bit further, but for now everyone can move 1 space, and moving is always orthogonally, never diagonally. Again, something that I learned through board games, orthogonally, never used this before. And yeah, I think let's start with Luna moving into this first node here. The cool thing is Luna is never affected by anything when traversing or moving into a space, so there are some corner icons here or edge icons which typically are triggered, and also any when entering effects don't affect Luna here. So it's always good practice to move Luna in here. And here we have found the field of hover blossoms, and wow, artwork in this game seems to be very solid. So let's move Luna in here. Again, those edge symbols are not triggered in this case. They are okay. So normal astronaut or scientist moving in here would now have to spend 1 time moving in here, but would also gain an insight, because again, we are learning about our environment here. So this purple icon here is always a good thing. On a different note, we found a building site here, which basically this, I don't know, cogwheel kind of action space indicates we are okay building, again, either our research hub, the laboratory, or the workshop here accordingly. So that's, I guess, a good first start. Again, not having looked at those nodes, I don't know how many of those are. Is it just 3 or is it 6? I will find out together with you, and this is, I guess, where you have to play this game more than once just to learn about Wenora. But the rules are pretty clear to say if you don't like a particular planet or particular task, don't play it. Just try it, and if you don't want to play it or can't cope with it, move on and do something else. Again, I like the exploration part of this here. I'm pretty sure I will not play this just once, but yeah, that's basically me enjoying sandbox kind of games. Okay, Lucy can still take another action with Luna. And that's basically, oops, you cannot see that, scan Luna's node right now. And we don't have to be on the node to use that command here. Even if Luna would be all the way over here, we can still use a command. Later on, there are some things where you have to be on the same node as Luna, especially for her, I think it's her prime directive, or what is it called? Keep forgetting it. Basically, her command here. This is something which you can trigger from anywhere, but in order to use it, the scientist needs to be on the same node as Luna. But in this case, I think I made the point pretty clear. We can use it. And right now, I don't know if we should go for data or if we should go for material. Both could be somewhat important, I guess. Let's go with data. I don't know. So we will roll this bluish die here. I think I don't really need a dice tower for that. And that's 2. And this means we are adding 2 of those data cubes on the node of Luna. We cannot harvest it, quote unquote. So we have to really move in here and then do the, I think it's the, what is it actually? Yeah, right. It's basically the analyze data or unearth material action on this material board over here. I was looking for this on the player board and didn't, I know I have read it, but where is it? No, it's in here. Basically where we can gather or analyze the data according, and then we can then move it from the node into the database here, and typically 1 for each die. If we're using the right die or the right cube, that is focus cube, that is, then we can also do that basically up to 2 times. Those were the 3 actions for Luna, for Lucy this round. But keep in mind, our blue scientist here can do pretty much the very same thing with Luna during his activation. And didn't name the blue scientist here. Maybe let you decide who the blue guy should be. Come up with your names and then I will maybe name it as from my next episode. Sounds fun, right? But still, Lucy has to take her 3 actions now, or she can still move. And I think moving now over to this node sounds like a good idea. So again, every scientist gets 1 free move during their turn, and this means she's now moving into, what was it? The field of hover blossoms. As we have now traversed over this edge, we have to trigger those symbols here, which in this case means we have to move the time token 1 space ahead. And whenever we are moving past the maximum here, each scientist will lose 1 entrance. And as soon as one of these cubes moves into this pinkish area down here, they are pretty much defeated, I think unconscious or whatever. They're not really dead, and maybe there are ways to revive characters. I don't know, haven't seen anything, but could be, who knows. But again, if both of our scientists will end up down here, then we have automatically lost the game, obviously. From moving onto this node, we still get 1 insight, which means we are moving this die up. Nicely done. Whenever we are moving off the scale here, we would gain 1 comprehension of the same type and would also give us a breakthrough card. And those breakthrough cards are free actions that are, it seems, very, very powerful. So very, very important to get. And now I think in respect to free actions, more or less, we are done. We have to start using our focus cubes now. So let's move over just a hair. And these are our 6 actions we have at our disposals. We also have some more on the material board, which I showed you. We can now build the research hut, for example. And that's something we should try to consider right now. Again, we can do that at this point in time. And maybe that's what we want to do. Keep in mind, one of our dice needs to go to the rest space here, which would improve that. It will also cost us a time. And building now one of our research structures or our structures would also cost us 1 time because we don't have any comprehension. And keep in mind, each of those structures can be built with either the right set of comprehension, so for example, chemistry for the laboratory, or we can simply brute force our way in and simply, I don't know, follow the manual. And yeah, it will simply take us some time. We already have spent 1 time for moving there. We might spend 1 time here, and we will spend 1 time for our rest action. So wow, we are already burning time like crazy and have no clue if that's something we should do right now or not. I think the very first thing that we should do is to actually investigate our node here. And I think the rules are very clear about that. Really, you should be or should play this game boldly enough. Not reckless, but boldly enough to move over. You should also use time as a resource. Yes, it's not indefinite. Or it's definite in this case, but you should use it as a resource. Time can be your friend and your worst enemy in this game, but I think going for an investigation, because we need these anomalies, we need those discoveries, for example, I think let's start with an investigate action here, which means we are placing one of our dice here onto our node here accordingly on the investigate node. We could basically place any of our dice in here, but if we're going with a wonder die, we get a bonus, which means we would get yet another insight. And I think for now there is no reason not to do that. So we are placing our cube here accordingly. Because there is a downward arrow, it will basically decrease our focus on the die, so it's getting less powerful in that case. But we will also gain the insight here from the bonus. We can do that right off the bat, and then we are pursuing an opportunity on your node. So a lot of things will happen now, and the first thing simply says we are putting an investigation token on there, which means no one else can investigate here ever again. So that's plain and simple. Then we are drawing one of those opportunity cards, and in theory we have 2 stacks of those. It doesn't really matter too much which of those we are getting. We are simply drawing the topmost from the so-called pinkish purpley kind of thing, and we will reveal it. First of all, we will place the proper I think momentum token. That's a huge acrylic token here next to that to really tie this opportunity with this node here. And then let's see what we can find here. We have found some winged fungal being. You come upon a fungal creature at rest on a waxy pedestal. When you step forward, spiked vines erupt violently from the ground, crashing together to form a vicious spherical cage around it. Then another such vine skewers you in the chest. You begin to float away. As the pedestal fades from view, you see the vines retract. Immediately, that's something that happens right now to poor Lucy. Each local explorer, which right now is only Lucy, must place themselves on an adjacent revealed node, which in this case is the scarab. So that's definitely not great, obviously, but therefore we will also gain one more insight for that. So 2 more steps here and we will gain our first engineering breakthrough card here. And I really did that randomly, these dice. There are 3 different colors or scientific disciplines on these dice, and I made sure to have different one for both of those. That's what the rules suggest. Later on you will then move to something else anyway. Of course, someone might become a specialist. I don't know. As nothing else is revealed, we can now, and this is something where the rules are specific for the scarab. In this case, the scarab does count as a node, so she's now being pushed back to the scarab here, which is kind of a bummer. We will place our winged fuel being basically next here so that we know what it is. Typically there is a space under this planet board, but I really don't have the table space here, so I will simply mark it with a red disc here to really show that this is the opportunity for the pinkish, reddish, purplish momentum token here. And yeah, then it's still her turn. She still has 2 more things to do. Keep in mind, Lucy has already taken her free action or move action this round, so she cannot freely move again, but we have the traverse action in here, which also allows you to continue to move and or carry a local explorer 1 node. So in this case, this might be even beneficial. So we might want to move back to the field of hover blossoms and simply take the blue unnamed scientist with us. One thing I need to check though is if we still leave one of those toxic spore clouds, and it seems we do, because it says when an explorer leaves a node, and we left it. I was really checking if it's really need to be a move action or a traverse action, but your movements will agitate them, stirring up nasty fungal clouds. So we are moving too heavily, which sets all these spores free. So in this, yes, in this case we do have to place another of these cubes in here, which is kind of a problem now, or partially a problem, because you're getting one of these distress cards when you start your turn in a node that contains one of those spore clouds. So right now we are still okay, and if we now play our cards correctly, we might be even able to use that properly actually. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe we should now consider moving in here. On the other hand, this would mean that blue guy would then start his turn here and would already get a distress card. So maybe that's also not our best bet. Wow, this game is already quite tough actually. And maybe one thing I forgot, because we have the winged fungus here, we should also place the appropriate discovery token next to it. I'm moving it from the board here. So whenever we are doing this, we would gain this. In order to do this non-organic extraction, this opportunity card tells us that Luna must be present. So we need some support from Luna in this case. But again, what are we going to do with Lucy? And again, you have to use all your tokens. So maybe I will simply go for the skeptic action, giving us one of these, either maybe going for some energy. Right now, our energy is fully depleted, and getting a freebie might help us later on. So we already have made sure to get some data. We might find some materials later on. And now with her theorize action, she could go for some actual energy. Maybe that's not the worst thing in the world. So let's do that. So let's use one of those dice. Doesn't really matter too much, I believe, right now, because that's the blue one. We don't need the blue. I think we can put the blue one in here actually. So let's put the blue die here. There is no arrow on this card, which means we leave it as it is, which is kind of helpful. And then again, a desire for security leads me to prioritize preparedness. And I guess, yeah, let's stick to the plan. We will grab ourselves one energy. So something we can use, and that's a group inventory of sorts. So every of our players will be able to use those resources. That counts for energy, for the materials, and for the data. Then Lucy will use her last die, and again, one of these dice needs to go to the rest, and it doesn't need to be the last action, by the way. We can go with the very first die on there and then go for it. Which means this shows an arrow up. We are flipping this up, so we have strengthened our die, so we have rested. Every turn, rest one, focus of your choice. It will still cost us one more time, and by the way, this is our group trust, by the way. Right now we are still on a high trust, and typically nasty things might happen if we are moving to low trust, but rest assured this will happen sooner or later. And that's pretty much the end of the turn, and you show this to your other players by regrouping your focus die, leaving the orientation as they are and moving it next to the board. And this then tells us, okay, we have taken our turn. Now moving over to blue, who has to make some terrible decisions now actually. I'm really tempted now with our free action moving in here, then going for the opportunity, and then traversing out. And before we do that, moving Luna in there, because again, I don't want to get distressed too soon. This is really the puzzly aspect of this game, and especially for this planet here. And typically I'm very bad at these kind of puzzles, but it seems very enjoyable here. And I think let's do that. Again, we have not started our turn on a black spore cloud, so we seem safe in our scarab here. So we are moving over here. We will gain one insight. I will mark that here off camera. We will lose one time. Okay, that has been taken care of. We have used our free movement for this round. Before we do anything else, we will then go for this opportunity. So we will have to spend our very first die, and now which one are we going to use? Not the blue one, maybe the green one. I think green is it Wonder? Yeah, it's Wonder. I think, yeah, we are wondering. Why not? Luna is present, so we are allowed to do that. We are placing the die here because it shows a downward arrow. We will lose one level of focus. We will get the token and an anomaly in a second, but let's deal with those two inside here. So we really have learned a lot about this planet now, which will move our inside cube 2 spaces up. So also 2 spaces away to get our first comprehension and breakthrough accordingly. That's really nice. And again, each of those discovery tokens comes with a scientific anomaly, and each planet has their own deck for those. And I'm already making a mess here. Apologies. So we are drawing our very first card here, and that's a fungal host. So we have become the fungal host in this case, which is something that will happen more than once, I believe. So this fungal host keyword, it's more like a keyword in this case, and will trigger various things on this planet, on Wenora, but it's definitely important to us. So we have become the fungal host now, and we have this so-called discard ability, which is absorb pearlescence. And when we discard, we can remove one spore cloud from your node and or one from your adjacent node. So in this case, we will then have to discard basically both of those. So we are no longer a fungal host then when we discard it. But in order to do that, we will have to have someone with chemistry comprehension present. This can be another explorer on the same node, for example, or it can be us, doesn't really matter. It simply needs to be present, and even an unconscious scientist counts, and rules say you have to come up with a cool thematical explanation why this scientist is still helping you and you're using it. But that's now really something, an anomaly we will have. So we have the spore cloud here. This basically goes back in a second. I believe at the end of the round or so. This momentum token though goes back to the board, which is up here. Then we still have some more actions. We can still deal with Luna, and the question now is, do we want to scan for some material here too, or should we first move Luna down or up or left and then scan there? I don't know. And in this case, let's simply scan, have Luna scan here. Wow, that's 3 material on this node. I mean, that's pretty amazing, actually. Again, someone can unearth those materials later on. It could be me. I could now spend the die, but I still feel like we should leave this node in order not to get too much distress early on in the game. And someone still needs to build this one here too, so I have to think about that too. Okay, so we will then move Luna left. Should we simply make our path to the left? Because again, we have to go through the swampy quagmire at the end of the game, or until the end of the game. I'm pretty sure about that. So I guess we will have Luna move in here. So yeah, we are exploring this here, and then we have found the spongy trumpet swamp, which is pretty amazing actually. If you possess fungal host, which we do, we can soak up energy. Oh, that's insanely good actually. You see, there is no building site for our structures here, but I mean, I figured as much. And then I think we have to traverse now. I think so. Yeah, with our second focus, again, we want to leave this space here. So we will use our traverse action here, which means we are moving this one down accordingly. And because we were using the energy die on this one, we get the bonus, which gives us yet an additional insight. Nicely done. Move and or carry a local explorer 1 node. So let's do that. We will move over here. We have traversed both or all 3 of those edge icons here. First of all, we will have to spend 1 more time for this, but we have also gained 2 insight now, and that's amazing. With our first, we are getting our very first comprehension. It needs to be a chemical one, and I think we can simply place them down here. And we get a second one. Before we do that, we can set this to another side. And I think right now we don't have, what is the other one? Robotics. Let's go with the robotics one and start down here. So this was our first step, this was our second step. We will still get it. So the next comprehension will be around robotics. But because we have got this chemistry comprehension, we will also get a breakthrough card. And I think there are 4 available on each of those planets, or at least I think maybe it's more and less. And our breakthrough card for this comprehension was the Ingest Pearlescent Slurry. An explorer currently within 1 node may ignore time symbols on node edges for the remainder of this turn. That's amazing. So we can use it once per turn. This can be our turn, this can be their turn, so we can basically use it pretty much every alternate or every turn for those explorers. It costs us 1 material though that's something we will have to take care of. We don't have any materials right now. We can harvest those, but right now we don't have those. But that's a pretty amazing thing, and that's one of those free things that you can do during any player's turn, obviously. So that's a very, very powerful card, at least I think. So we will park this one right next to our player board here, and then I think that's more or less the end of our turn. I think there is nothing free. Of course, we can immediately use it, but again, there's no reason for that. But because we have gotten our chemistry comprehension, we in fact could consider using our absorb pearlescence by discarding this discovery and anomaly card here. Of course, then the winged fungus would be gone and we would no longer be a fungal host, but I think that's pretty okay. Right now we only have one of those spore clouds next to us, so I think right now it would be a waste, but again, something worthwhile to consider. Oh, that's cool. So we are really making some progress after all. And with our last die, apologies cube, we will go to the rest action here, so we will move it up. Keep in mind, because we are the intellectual, we are getting a somewhat more powerful rest action here. We were using our observation awareness die, which means we will yet again get 1 more insight here coding, but we will still have to spend 1 more time. Right now we are still okay, but the next time one of our explorers is using this, yeah, we will all lose 1 endurance and yeah, bringing us 1 step closer to defeat. And then I think last but not least, we have to regroup all our dice here. We will take it off this opportunity card here. This opportunity card, I believe, is discarded as far as I can remember. And then yeah, we would move into the next round. But I think for today I will call it, because I read a lot, I explained a lot, I played a little bit, and I still want you to name our blue scientist here, so I don't want to have him unnamed for the rest of this playthrough. One round is okay, maybe he was suffering from a concussion from the landing and didn't really remember his name or so. But again, I will let you decide, and then we'll give this poor fella a name as from my next episode. With that being said, I really hope you enjoyed my very first episode of Unsettled so far. Again, for me, now playing this game, everything seems to make sense. Again, the rules are very, very detailed, a lot of moving bits and pieces, and rest assured I will keep forgetting stuff. But yeah, I have you guys to make me aware of any of rule scoofs, and then I will try to correct them as much as I can. The most important thing, and maybe I really should have checked that early on, is if the scarab counts for this toxic spore cloud here. I don't think it does, but in case it did, then maybe this would have been already a pretty terrible turn. But then I would have also played it somewhat differently, because with her first move she might have then moved blue fellow here with her, for example, with the traverse action or whatnot. But again, I will let you chime in on that. Huge shout out to all of my patrons and channel members out there. Really do appreciate all your support. If you want to support my channel, you will find a link to my page on Patreon, or you can join me here directly on YouTube. Like and subscribe, leave a comment, everything helps, and hope to see you soon in one of my other videos. And until then, bye bye.